No, it has nothing to do with calcium.
Hey guys, are you a failed 41-year-old actor? Do you have dreams of making your own movie where you put down members of your own race while also elevating yourself to a higher position and power than you actually are in real life, but you don't really have the time, the energy, nor the motivation, or more importantly, the money to do it? Well, boy, howdy, do I have the AI software for you. Introducing Sora 2 AI. Now, I think we can all agree that generative AI is pretty fucking cringe. Not only is it destroying our planet by guzzling water that we all need to survive just so we can cool down the hardware needed for the AI, it creates carbon emissions that are currently heating up the planet as we speak, but it's also a gateway for talentless hacks to infiltrate communities they have no real need to be a part of. You know the ones I'm talking about. The ones who use AI for their art so they can sell it on Etsy for way more than is actually worth. They use ChatGPT to write scripts for their shitty YouTube videos so that they can churn out and make a slop factory, or in the case of this video, uses the now defunct Sora 2 AI to create a self-aggrandizing, racially charged movie where you put down members of your own race, whereas you elevate yourself to be more of a successful person than you actually are. And of course, that's going to be the topic of this video with the man, the myth, the waffle stopper himself, LowTierGod. Now, picture this. You're a 41-year-old man. When you were younger, you were often ostracized and bullied by members of your own race because you never really liked the others. You were never too black enough for that you were different. And to this day, you never really let go of this trauma. But that's neither here nor there. During these formidable years of your life, you decided to get into video games, more specifically fighting games like Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter. You become so infatuated and into these games that years later, when you become a fully functioning young adult, you decide to go into the competitor scene of these games. I mean, hell, you decide to record yourself playing these games and upload them to a video sharing website called YouTube. However, despite the many years you have been playing these video games, your competitive career never really goes anywhere. Not only that, but your reputation of being a complete toxic jackass has been gaining a lot of traction, so much in fact that you eventually get banned from the platform you've been streaming and uploading your content to in around late 2022. Hell, you even get banned from the highest fighting game tournament of all time because you made a transphobic statement towards a fellow fighting game creator, Sarah Black. But really, that doesn't really matter to you, does it? Your dreams were never to become this big, successful fighting game creator, or hell, even becoming a big FGC professional. You dreamed of something bigger, something better, and that something is to become Hollywood royalty. That's right, you want to become the next Tom Cruise, the next Denzel Washington. You eventually have your name chiseled on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. But you also have two problems. One is that your toxic reputation has pretty much become so notorious that no one really wants to work with you. But the other big problem is that you kind of suck at acting. But despite your toxic notoriety and your garbage acting skills, you eventually do get a role in a small indie film. I mean, it's not a big Hollywood production, but hey, it's a start. We all gotta start somewhere, right? And it doesn't really go anywhere, and your role in the movie wasn't even some main character or even side character, but a background character in a hospital in which your scene was actually cut out from the movie before it even released. Well, that was kind of a bust, but don't worry. There's a new opportunity for you to get into big Hollywood and be a Hollywood elite. E-League, the television program that's known for hosting esports, has decided to launch a reality TV show centered around Street Fighter V. And hey, that show happens to be your bread and butter. Named E-League the Challenger Street Fighter V, what a fucking original name that is, you were invited to the show by the producers themselves. They felt like you could bring in some spicy drama. So you decided to take the offer and fly out to Atlanta, Georgia, where you can finally get the chance to become Hollywood royalty you always dreamed of being. And you get eliminated in the first fucking episode. Yeah, that kind of sucks. And after that episode, your acting opportunities really dried up and your acting career never really goes anywhere. So you decide to just tuck in your tail and focus more so on content creation. You moved over to Twitch for your live streams, and you've been streaming there ever since, playing a multitude of fighting games like Smash Bros. Ultimate and Street Fighter 6 and 5 and sometimes 4. Regardless, you never really got over your failed acting career. You genuinely believed that you had a chance of becoming the next big Tom Cruise. But around late 2025, you become aware of a software that could be your last hope of becoming a big dick Hollywood actor. But not only that, but it can also help you create your own movie without paying for a crew, script writer, or any actors, or any of that liberal shit. And this is where you created your big grand vision, Soul Swap. Now, Soul Swap is what I can only best describe it as a modern day sci-fi version of The Birth of a Nation, but instead of it boasting and elevating white people while also putting down black people as stupid and lower beings, it boasts and elevates a singular person that has created it while also reducing black people to stupid, lower beings. The person, of course, being Dale Wilson. He's just so clever. Now, the movie begins with AI LowTierGod being in his office, looking out in a rainy night sky. Now, you can really tell just from this opening scene alone that Dale thinks really highly of himself. He has a nice white button-up shirt, he looks proper, he's drinking a very lovely glass of whiskey, he has science-looking formulas all over the walls and chalk. You can tell this is a high-value man. The problem is, real-life Dale is nowhere close to being a high-value man. Remind you, this guy is over $200,000 in debt over a fucking scat pack. He is a deadbeat father and is living with his butt buddy and Maud Ferris in a house that I don't even think his name is even on the lease. He is nowhere close to a high-value man. Anyway, so we didn't get into AI LowTierGod's backstory. It's just LowTierGod's backstory in real life, but Neon. And you could really tell that his childhood trauma still affects him to this day. We get to see LowTierGod during his formidable years of life, from elementary school all the way up to high school to around college age. I say college age because I don't actually know if Dale actually went to college. Regardless, we do see within this flashback sequence moments that still clearly affect Dale to this day. In elementary school, he got his action figure stolen by another kid. Within his high school years, he was ostracized, bullied by other black people just for not being like them. I will say that a really funny part of this entire flashback sequence, there is a moment where Dale hangs out with a bunch of his friends and they play video games or whatever. But then Dale leaves the room and his friends try to steal a bunch of video games from him or something like that. I say steal in massive quotations because they don't really do that. They instead just kind of shuffle the cartridges around just all over the floor in an attempt to steal something, which I think is just the AI being funky. Though, quick side note here, I actually do like this scene because it clearly shows how fucking old Dale is. And the biggest clue in that fact is the game console and the game cartridges. The cartridges obviously look like something from like the NES to Super NES thing, which if that is the case, then Dale Wilson, you unintentionally show people that you're old as shit. Anyways, after that whole sob story flashback sequence, we then cut back to AI Dale laying on a couch with the walls covered in math equations. He gets up from his couch and continues his research. Now, you can really tell that Dale just kind of threw in a bunch of sciencey words just to make himself sound smarter than he actually is. Dale is not smart. More often than not, he often just kind of misspeaks a lot of words and just constantly acts like a jackass. So after this whole entire sequence of him trying to figure out some things, he finally figures out the solution to the problem he has encountered. So he leaves the building and decides to go look for some test subjects. And oh my god, this is one of the most infamous scenes in the movie. So just strap your seatbelts in because after this, it's only going to go downhill from here. So Dale meets up with 4 black people. Now these black people are clearly portrayed as being low income, poor, the stereotypical black person. It's obvious they look stereotypically black, right? And when Dale approaches them, he says one of the funniest lines in the movie, and that is,
"Gentlemen, may I inquire if any of you are interested in acquiring the most lucrative bag you have ever encountered in your lives?"
Wow, that... Anyways, the 4 men are obviously very skeptical about this most lucrative bag they have ever encountered because they just met Dale. They don't really trust him. But eventually, they all came together and agreed, and they take up on his offer and sign the contract. And this is where one of the most infamous scenes of this movie comes from. This is why this is often labeled the most racist movie of all time, okay? So after the contract gets signed, a van pulls up, and obviously there's some people, kind of stepping out of the van with catering trays. On said catering trays is a plate of fried chicken and a glass of grape soda. I'm not fucking kidding. Fried chicken and grape soda. Now, before we continue more into the movie and way more into the more racial aspects of it, I'd like to take a little detour, give you guys a quick little history lesson on why this scene in particular is very racist. So during the American slavery days, way before the Civil War, chicken was often fed to slaves for a few reasons. 1, they were easy to raise. 2, they were relatively cheap, and 3, they were high in protein. Now, the fried chicken and just the chicken stereotype in general wasn't really relevant during this time. That was until the 1915 silent film, The Birth of a Nation. Now, this film was often credited with the rise of the Ku Klux Klan, or more commonly known as the KKK, and is also often cited as being one of the most, if not the most racist and offensive movie of all time. Now, in the movie, there's a specific scene where we see a bunch of black lawmakers in the legislative hall. Now, obviously, this is the 1950s, so these black legislators were played by white actors in blackface. They're seen as being loud, obnoxious, rude, taking their boots off, kicking their feet up a little bit, and within this scene, we see them eat chicken. And from that point on, the chicken stereotype has become pretty much tied to black people. Now, for the grape soda thing, that stereotype is a little bit less known because unlike the chicken stereotype where it's tied to The Birth of a Nation, grape soda doesn't really have that much of a connection, or at least something tied to something historical like The Birth of a Nation. Regardless, I will explain it right here. To pretty much sum it up, drinks like grape soda, high C, and Kool-Aid, it mostly stems from these types of drinks being readily available in low-income neighborhoods that are predominantly black. They're highly consumed within these neighborhoods. The reason being is that they were heavily advertised and cheap. And that's kind of where the grape soda and just flavored drink stereotype for black people really stems from. There's not really a moment in history, at least from what I can find. And if you think that even for a second that the racist references will stop here, oh no, they still are here, and they get much worse. Now, after these 4 lovely gentlemen join the Covenant, they hop into a vehicle with LowTierGod and drive off into the Covenant Factory, a steampunk-themed factory filled with the things that your stereotypical black gentleman could ever dream of. That being sneakers preserved in a tube, automated Twitch viewers and subs, EBT cards, fully automated steam pressure cooker thing that makes collard greens and yams, Newport liquor, I'm not fucking kidding, jewelry, Plan B, an armory filled with the latest and greatest firearms, and of course, a weed dispensary. Of course, only the bare necessity. Now, if you still somehow manage to continue watching this film, you notice that the 4 gentlemen that agreed to Dale's offer, they constantly change. They don't really stay the same character, or at least the same actor, from one scene to the next. And while that could just be the AI being a little wonky and not really being consistent, I'd see it as something different. I see this as how Dale sees other black people. Weed smoking, poor, fried chicken eating, grape soda drinking, weed smoking, lower beings. Now, could it just be a coincidence? Sure, we can say that. But really, I wouldn't put it past Dale. Anyways, after we see everything that the Covenant Factory has to offer, the 4 soon-to-be victims finally decide to double down and officially try to join the Covenant. However, their fates will soon be less than stellar, I'll say that. On the Dale side of things, we cut to a little white void of a laboratory where Dale just kind of spouts off a bunch of science-sounding things and reveal to us the Soul Swap Machine. Now, what is the Soul Swap Machine, you might ask? What do you think? It's a machine that swaps the souls of the victim to someone else. It's weird, and they don't really go much, and the movie doesn't really go much into explaining what it actually does, but we'll see it in action later. Elsewhere, the four gentlemen decide to leave the nightclub and kind of explore the factory to kind of really get a vibe as to what they're dealing with, which will lead to their eventual downfall. Now, the first one gets seduced by a beautiful, big, bony Latina. She takes him to a room, they have a little drink, she drugs him, and after he falls asleep, four gentlemen in gas masks, which I don't know why they're in this kind of gas mask-like mask. I don't know why they're in that. They kind of drag him away, and then we cut to the Latina woman. It's weird, but regardless, he's obviously got seduced, and he's now being taken away to be the next victim of the soul swap machine. The second guy gets kind of carried away by his greed, so he decides to kind of like rob the factory, stealing jewelry and high-end clothes, but the security system goes off, and then he's then captured and put into chains. Yeah, he literally chains just kind of pop out of his chest, and then he's then captured. This movie's fucking bad. Now, the third one goes to a car showroom that was shown earlier in the movie and decides to steal a car. Of course, all of them are Dodge Chargers. Unfortunately, the Covenant Anti-Theft Protocol activates, and he is then captured through a portal-like thing. I don't know what it is. The AI does a terrible job at showcasing what it actually is. Anyway, so the fourth guy goes into the Twitch bot and sub room to, try to boost up his popularity on livestream or on the internet. Regardless, he's then captured and sucked into the Matrix. That's pretty much what happened. Now, I want to take a little bit of a detour here because I might be crazy, but I feel like the way these four gentlemen are captured kind of feel like, at least to me, references to popular low-tier god memes. The Latina for the first victim could be a reference to Elena, who is LowTierGod's ex. The second one, which is the guy stealing all the high-end clothes and jewelry, could be a reference to the Balenciaga situation where Dale cries so hard about Balenciaga, how his Balenciaga shirt may be fake. It's really funny to me. I recommend you go watch it. The third guy could be in reference to Dale's car, which he got in nearly $200,000 in debt for. And the final guy could be a reference to the sub-body allegations Dale has had ever since he moved to Twitch. Though that could just be me. I could be crazy. I think these are all just coincidences. Anyways, after all the four logs have been captured, Dale goes through this monologue about how humans are inferior and talks about black people wasting their lives on the block for some bullshit. By this point of this dumbass movie, I just really wanted to be done watching. Then we cut to the actual soul swap machine where one of the victims gets trapped and his soul is then swapped from a black rog to a white scientist.
Fascinating.
We get it, Dale. You really love white people, okay? And that's the end. That's literally the end of the fucking movie. Dale tricks four stereotypical black people, captures them for his dumbass soul swap machine, just so we could turn them into white people and geniuses. This movie fucking sucks. Now I want to dedicate this final bit of the video to discuss this absolute train wreck of a movie. Let's just say, for the sake of my opinion, let's just remove the racial shit. Let's remove the fact that it's AI generated and remove the fact that it's made by fucking LowTierGod. This movie still sucks. The plot is an incoherent mess. The visuals are complete dog shit. The AI voices are degrading, especially Dale's. And Dale's role in the story is really weird. The beginning of the movie wants you to think that he's some big genius and the main protagonist, but throughout the movie, he just kind of turns into this background character until he's all of a sudden just a bad guy who captures innocent people for this dumb soul swap machine thing. And the dumbass speech at the end, it wouldn't be so funny if it didn't come from Dale himself. He has no right to judge people based on how they live their lives. It has no right to put down black people for simply being the fact that he is the wrongiest wrong to ever wrong. He is a deadbeat father. He's $200,000 in debt over a fucking scat pack. And he takes online shit way too serious. But do you don't want to know something really fucked up? Something so mind-numbingly stupid and ironic. After showing this dumbass movie to his audience on a live stream, he criticizes left and liberal blacks and that they should be new age blacks if they truly cared about black lives.
Yo, this shit would only piss off a fake pro-black, but at the same time, the fake pro-black would be on the actual new age black's dick.
This motherfucker has said the most racist, out-of-pocket shit of not just black people, but other races like mine. He's the one to judge people? He's the one to criticize people actually wanting to make a difference in the world? He's the one to say that. Him, unbelievable. And because of that, I'm done talking about him. I'm done talking about Dale. If you guys didn't know, I recently uploaded a community post where I explained that after this video comes out, I'm done talking about Dale, and I think I'm gonna stay by that. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.